Welcome to Faith Factor. This is a program where you meet real people facing real challenges in a real world. And look what happens when faith is a factor. We want to look at what happens when God stretches your boundaries. Have you ever felt a call from God to do something and questioned whether you're up to it, whether you have the skills to do it, whether you have the opportunity to do it? Wondered really, is God calling me to do that? I have a word of encouragement for you, and this is a program you can't miss. Take a look at Psalms 37, 3 and 4. Here's what it says. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on His faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Now, what that is saying is simply this, that when you put your trust in God, you don't depend upon your capability. You don't worry about your ability. You focus on His sufficiency. And that's all He expects you to do, because you see, He gets the glory when He does the extraordinary in ordinary lives. And in a world that's falling apart, when He calls upon His children and they feel inadequate, He chuckles, because then that's His opportunity to get in there and do above and beyond anything that you expected. On the other side of the fence, if you wonder, you doubt, and you don't, you lose the ride of a lifetime. You lose an opportunity for God to do wonderful things in your life. Faith is a factor in pain as well as in possibilities, in work as well as in play. Always trust Him. Let's talk about faith at work when God stretches your boundaries. Have you ever been asked to do something by God that you wondered whether He'd made a mistake? I mean, could He really be kidding? Is this you He's asking to do this? Wondered whether you were adequate for the position? Well, you would enjoy hearing and listening to Cordell Lebrant, who is our guest on this program. Cordell, welcome. What do you do? What is your position?
Presently, I serve as the South African Union Director for Women's Ministries.
Women's Ministries Director for the South African Union. And South Africa, that union covers what territory?
It covers Swaziland, Namibia, Lesotho, and South Africa.
All of South Africa,
yes.
Including big, bustling Johannesburg,
yes.
Right? That is wonderful. Now, let's talk about how you got there. And the reason I'm asking is, you look at the profile of someone who is always out there, out front, and doing things, and you think, oh, that's a born leader. But God doesn't see things that way. Tell me about your journey into that position.
Well, I think I attended a Christian school, one of our church schools, which is Good Hope High School. And as a young lady, the staff recognized my potential in leadership, and they helped me develop that leadership. Because when I attended the school, I was a very shy person. And I also recognized that it is one of my spiritual gifts. Mm-hmm. So I think that's
leadership is one of your
spiritual gifts, yes.
So now that's interesting. God has a sense of humor. You're a very shy person, and God said, I'm going to give you a gift of leadership.
Yes.
So now, when you found yourself in this position, with the awesome responsibility of a very large territory as a Union Women's Ministries Director, how did you feel?
Well, at first I was I couldn't understand why the Lord had chosen me, because I'm just an ordinary person. But I really prayed about it, because I felt I always had a calling, and I wasn't sure what this calling was. And whenever I would pray about it, and I said, Lord, I'm a woman willing to be used by you, and it doesn't matter what you want me to do, and if that's what you want me to do, I'm prepared to do it. So that's when I accepted the call and accepted the challenge.
So it wasn't necessarily that you were comfortable with the role, or were you?
No, because I felt there were so many women out there that can do it better than I can do it. But I was reminded that the Lord will take you through paths and He will guide you, and that I should not fear, because He will always take me by the hand and He will guide me.
And when He calls you to the task, He empowers you, doesn't He?
Yes.
Tell us a bit about some of the challenges the women of South Africa face, so we'd have a sense of the scope of your responsibility.
The women of South Africa, I think no matter where you go, all women face similar challenges. Challenges such as poverty. Especially in South Africa, you face challenge of unemployment. There are so many of our women that have AIDS. There's so many women that are hurting, that are broken. So these are the challenges that our women face.
And a part of your vision, what overall, if you had, overall to look at the broad territory that God has given you, has expanded your boundaries to encompass, and you had to think in terms of your vision of what you would like to see. What does it look like?
I would say each conference I would have a different vision. But if I look at what General Conference would like us to do, our theme for the year is Touch a Heart and Tell the World. Mm-hmm. And that's the direction that I would like to go in. I would like to follow that, because once you touch, you don't need to even evangelize. And from there, the Lord will take you to places that you least expect to be.
So you, when you talk about touch a heart and tell the world, you feel that a lot has been done in telling the world, but you don't feel that the heart has been touched enough.
Yeah, I don't feel that, because you need to go out there and you need to experience, you need to feel what those women feel. And you need to go out into the communities, and it really takes you to challenges, places that you least, and you do things that you least expect to do. But at the end of the day, it is so, you come home feeling that your cup has been filled.
Mm. And that is the big blessing when you answer to God's call. Now we're talking about stretching boundaries. Tell me a bit about yourself. I mean, let's get a picture of you as a leader and you as an individual, and God pulling the two together. School days or just yourself and your heart, and what are some of the concerns you had?
Firstly, I'd like to say that when I first accepted, I didn't realize the responsibility and having to go traveling to these different places. And when you get to these different places, you're really shocked. It changes you as a person.
What shocks you?
Because we become so comfortable in our zones. We take so much for granted. And yet there's people out there that have nothing, but yet they are so spirit-filled. And one thing I'd like to say about the women of South Africa, they're really passionate about what they do. They're really passionate about the work of God. And when we have retreats and whatever, our ladies come. They walk thousands of kilometers. They would sleep in the open. They would sleep on the floor. But their passion to be there and to just fellowship and to be able to get as much as they can spiritually. So that, to me, has really changed me.
Do you see that as a contrast to the United States?
Yes, very much so. I would like to say we don't have as much as we don't have half as what the people of the United States has. But our people are different.
In what regard?
They are so much humble. They're prepared to go and to do as anything that you would like them to do. And when they come, it's a different spirit altogether. I mean, I'm just comparing to what I've been through and where I come from. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes me really appreciate the women of South Africa. And we learn to compromise with we learn to use whatever we have. And yet, by the time you leave, you feel spirit-filled. You feel so blessed.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that in your constituency, one of the challenges that the women deal with is a challenge of AIDS. Do you see a preponderance of that in one area as opposed to the other? And what is the life of those women like, and what are you trying to do there?
I think in all the conferences, yes, AIDS it's very high on the list, I would say, because you're faced with situations where the mothers have to take care of kids. Of course, the spouses have passed on already, and because they have maybe 2, 3, 4 children, they are unemployed, and at the same time you get children that have to take care of their siblings because their parents have passed on with AIDS. And that, I think, is causing a great disturbance for me personally. Because you look at these little children, you see, you know, in their eyes, it's just challenging.
And children having to be, in essence, what you're saying, heads of household, children of what age?
I would say children of 10, 11 years old, going home, going to school, and at the same time going home, and they have to try and fend for those children to feed them.
Having responsibilities as a parent.
Yes, yes.
How does your union, I can't say your union because you're it, how do your women group together, band together? I mean, how do you help these thousands of children in that condition?
Well, our women are very supportive of each other. Wherever we can help each other, we will go the extra mile. If we have anything in our cupboards that we want to share, we will share it with others.
So you find that there is more of a kindred spirit of looking and saying, there's a need there, let me try to meet it.
Yes,
yeah.
Very definitely.
Which is a little bit of, you know, a little bit of difference from some areas that you can think of. You indicate that you were surprised when the mantle fell on your shoulder. Did you ever ask God, how is this going to impact me personally?
Yes, I did.
How has it?
It has really changed my life. In an extent that I look at life differently. I don't take things for granted. And I feel the Lord has given me 5 years to fill this position. And in this 5 years, I want to run as fast as I can and touch as many lives as I can with the Lord's help.
That's an exciting vision. Do you find that, you know, what is your greatest challenge in leadership? I mean, do you find everyone kind of mobilizing together to kind of support you, or do you find in the stretch that sometimes when you count on people, they're not there?
Well, I would say leadership is always challenging. No, it's not easy. We all have different personality types. And most times they are very supportive, but on the other hand, no, it's not always like that. You feel you have to pull the others along and say, look, I need you to share my vision. I need you to share my dream. And that's how you get along.
It's not always that they jump on the bandwagon, go with you and make it happen.
No, it's not always.
Do you find that you have a majority? I understand young people are a large part of the population. Do you find that there are particular needs that your young women have as opposed to the older ones?
No, I think we're looking at our young people now have the opportunity to do as much as they can. Many avenues are open for them, but yet they want to be spiritually nurtured. And you can see that because they're passionate about what they do, and they're so willing. You can ask them to do anything, they're so willing to do it.
And you have a young women's ministry, I believe, I forgot what you call it, but you do have a whole core group and a whole ministry geared towards young women, don't you?
Yes, we do. We call them YOM, Young Women's Ministries, and they have lots of skills, and most times I just allow them to do what they want to do because they share different visions to us.
Yes.
And they're really, really excited about doing things for God.
Leading young women along. We've been talking with Cordell DeBrandt, South African Union Women's Ministries Director, and the challenge of what happens when God stretches your boundaries. And God is doing awesome things in South Africa. She has a vision for the young women. She's also facing the challenge of AIDS, and when we get back, we'll see how.
If you have been inspired by the incredible stories of faith in this series, then we have good news for you. Now you can own your very own copy of each of these 13 episodes in the first season on DVD or video cassette. This is a series you'll treasure, and it makes a great gift too. This 13-part series with Cynthia Prime makes a wonderful gift for a friend or a family member. Just call us at 1-800-752-3226 during regular business hours, and we'll be happy to take your order. You may also order it online at www.3abn.org.
Now, when God stretches your boundaries, He takes you out of your comfort zone. Sometimes the ride is a rough one, sometimes it's not so difficult, but each time, each step, there is joy in the journey, even if there is discomfort. I'm going to ask Cordell right now, Cordell DeBrandt, we're talking with, give me some instances in your own experience since you've been Women's Ministries Director for South Africa. What are some of the experiences you've seen, you've had, that showed you the stretch, God stretching your boundaries?
I would like to relate an experience where I was asked to do a leadership training in Namibia. And I didn't know what to expect. It was my first time going. But when I got there, I was surprised to see how many ladies came to attend the leadership training.
About how many?
I would say about 50. Because it was during the week. So they had sacrificed to come and be at this leadership training. And I think the thing that really touched me was that many of them came, some of them came with the babies on their backs. They were prepared because that's what they wanted to do. Some of them came without food, but yet those that had really shared. And I think what really stretched me was that the time that I was there, I had to sleep on the floor, which I didn't mind.
You slept on the floor?
Oh, yes.
When you say slept on the floor and
it was just the mattress. And they were facing a drought, and of course you had to just wash with cold water. And when it was time for our meals, they would serve a meal, and it would be the same meal for the rest of the week.
What was it?
It was what we call a pap. It's a white maize, and it was spinach. But I think the most important thing that really touched me was that these ladies, it didn't matter what they ate, but they just wanted to be spiritually fed. That it affected me to such an extent that when it came to the food, I said, Lord, you're going to have to help me eat this. But that wasn't important. What is important that each one was fed. And I think that really touched me because by the time I went home, I appreciated a bath and hot water. And even for the food that I eat, I don't take it for granted.
So you just ate that meal throughout the entire week, porridge sort of with some spinach thrown in?
Yes.
Do they ever run out of food sometimes?
Oh, yes, they do it most times because those ladies they're unemployed. That's one of the crises in Namibia. They're unemployed, but that doesn't keep them back.
Still working.
Yes.
So.
There was another instance where I noticed that this particular person was wearing the same thing all the time. And I thought, well, she's wearing the same thing, but it's clean. Until I came to realize, hey, but every time she washes that, she puts it on and it dries on her.
Puts on the clothing wet.
Yes, and it dries. But that didn't matter. And what really touched me was when it came to Sabbath, they wanted everybody to look special because it was Sabbath. And they would exchange with each other. And that to me was really touching.
Was that an inspiration to you also?
Very much so.
Yeah.
By the time I left there, I felt my cup was filled. Because many times as leaders, people expect you to fill their cups, but they don't realize that your cup also needs to be filled. So that really stretched me. But if that's what the Lord wants me, if that's how He wants to mold me, I will do whatever it takes.
So there again, what you're saying is that it is not, your mantle of leadership doesn't fall comfortably on your shoulders, am I right?
No, definitely not. Wherever I go, it's not comfortable.
It's not comfortable.
No.
Do you feel yourself having to stretch all the time, even now?
It depends. It depends on the country or the conference that I attend, but most times you have to stretch. It's a sacrifice for you as well. Having to go and having to share with the ladies.
Do you feel that the constant, in essence, almost pressure to be there, to be upfront, to share, is hard on you personally? Do you feel it's a drain on you personally?
To a certain extent, I would say yes, because there comes a time after you've left them, you go back home and you feel so helpless and hopeless, thinking, what can I do for these people? I had to realize that it's not about what you can do, it's about what God can do, because you can do so much, and there's so much to be done. And at first I used to become very despondent about it, because the Lord, you have chosen me to go and help these people, but here I am, I can do nothing for them. Guide me,
you feel helpless
help me.
yourself.
Yes.
Did you feel a sense of inadequacy in that, not only helping those people, but feeling perhaps yourself needing some of what they're needing?
Yes. You'll get to a situation where you feel you want to just unpack whatever you have and share it with them. That's some of the boundaries that I've really had to go through.
I'm curious, Cordell, you know, God takes us along journeys. You know, I'm looking at a woman who is very reserved and, as you say, shy. That's part of your temperament. It hasn't gone away. And yet still I'm looking at a woman who has to lead thousands of women and young women, some of them in difficult straits, some of them challenging because of temperaments. Do you ever feel hurt while carrying the burden of leadership?
I wouldn't say I feel hurt, because while I'm with them, I become like them. I live myself into the situations that they find. And they're such loving people that I forget about who I am. I forget about my shyness. You know, I feel I just want to give them all a hug. I wasn't a person that would just hug somebody, but this has really taught me, you know. And they themselves, they appreciate everything you do for them. It does not matter what. They are so appreciative that alone
inspires you.
Inspires you, yes.
Now that's a neat thing that you just said. You know, you're not a touchy-feely person. You're not a huggy person. You're a leave me by myself person, and I'll watch what's happening
Yes.
around the world. And yet still, I remember visiting Namibia, and you were in the midst when they were singing the songs, and you're grabbing a hand and saying, "Come on,
Yes.
come on and sing with them." It's a whole different personality there. You feel like God is doing a sort of makeover in you?
Oh, yes, definitely he has. He has definitely, because you just want to be part of them. That spirit is just there. I forget about this reserved person who I am. I just feel, you know, you become so taken up by the way they worship also, that you just want to, you just feel different. If it means jumping and clapping, I'll do it, because I enjoy it. It just takes you beyond your boundary.
Beyond your boundaries. Let me ask you this, Cordell. It seems as though when God shapes someone, whether it's a Moses, a Joseph, or whatever, he takes you through a crucible, he takes you along a path. You resonate so much with the needs of people. What has he, when I say, how has he led you in your personal life that has enabled you to be so sensitive? I mean, has life always been so perfect for you that you have so much to give?
I wouldn't say life has been perfect, but I'm the type of person, I like to help people. I want to be there for them. I like to go the extra mile. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
And you're very sensitive to their needs. You're very sensitive to how they feel about things yourself.
Yes, I am very sensitive because when I get to these places, you know, it's so easy for you as a leader to say, hey, do it this way and that way. No, I allow them to do whatever they want to do, because at the same time, I am learning.
Do you feel that God, in his preparation for this position, has taken you through maybe personal challenges or personal pain that allows you to feel that sensitivity there and feel the compassion that probably ordinarily you would not?
Yes, the Lord allows you to go through different experiences so that you can be able to share with the woman. You can feel what they're feeling. You know, sometimes women face different challenges. They face different fears, you know, whatever. And I think the Lord allows you to go through these different experiences. And sometimes maybe it doesn't...
Even negative experiences?
Yes, even negative.
Even painful experiences?
Yes. And sometimes it's not always just your own personal experiences, but you learn from others, and by learning and listening, you know, being there for the woman, listening to them, you are able to help the other women get through the challenges that they are facing.
Do you feel that it helps you also personally as you help them? Does it help you as well?
Yes, it definitely helps me, because to such an extent that I have to rely completely on the Lord for his guidance, for his leading. And so often when we are faced with challenges, We think we can do it ourselves. We know it all. But I've learned that before you even go to anyone else, take it to the Lord.
What's your prayer life like?
Since I've been involved, I have to pray much more than I pray. And I always said, Lord, whatever you want me to do, may it strengthen my relationship with you. And that has happened because many times you're faced with decisions and you have to pray, Lord, guide me. This is not about me, but it's what you want me to do for the women of South Africa. Yes, and it really, you have to pray. And so often you would get messages, can you please pray for me? Can you come and visit me? And yes, it really takes you. And spiritually, it makes you feel, Lord, you are in control.
So you've come to the point in accepting that, Lord, it is not what I can do, but what you can do through me and through the prayer life.
Definitely.
How would you encourage women, perhaps, who don't feel equal to the task, or who don't feel they have the right personality, the right temperament, or the right education, the right look, size, shape, whatever? What would you say to them to encourage them?
I would like to say to them is that trust God completely. Trust God with all your choices, because when you leave it up to Him, you'll never go wrong.
Amen.
Yes, and what's very important is to have that relationship with God. Start your day speaking to God and telling Him how you feel, and at the same time listen to Him as to how He wants you to lead.
And He guides you along the path
Yes.
so that you're able to accomplish what He calls you to. And that is the challenge of trusting God when He seeks to stretch your boundaries, not running away, not questioning, not saying, God, surely you can find someone better qualified. God, are you serious about calling me to this? But trusting Him, knowing that when He calls you, He enables you, He empowers you, and makes you a blessing to the glory of His precious name. When God calls you to do something, it isn't always something that is compatible with who you are or something that you feel comfortable about. But He always enables you to do exactly what He asks you to do. I've got a word of encouragement for you. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. Here's what it says. Now thanks be to God who always leads us to triumph in Christ, and through us diffuses the fragrance of His knowledge in every place. That's a beautiful image there, that God guarantees triumph, and then He enables us to exude the fragrance of His grace in spite of our inadequacies. He guarantees victory. He guarantees triumph if we trust Him.